Hi everyone, my name is Hallie McClamroch, and today I'm presenting my signature project titled The Effects of Character Education on a Middle School Classroom. This project focuses on something I see every day as a teacher and the connection between student behaviors and academic success. I wanted to explore whether teaching and character and leadership skills could improve both areas at the same time, instead of treating behavior and academics as separate problems. Um, when I first started this project, I was interested in character development just because at the school that I teach at, we currently just implemented I-Lead, or we were getting ready to start the process of it. And I thought, what better way to look at the issue at hand rather than just look at raw data to begin with, prior to starting the I-Lead program versus afterwards. So that is why I decided on this topic. The reason I chose this topic really came from what I was noticing in my own school prior to starting the I-Lead program. Over time, behavior issues have become more frequent. Things like off-task behavior, peer conflicts, and constant disruptions during instruction, especially teaching at the middle school level. I specifically teach fifth grade. So these were constantly things that we were noticing in the classroom. And we noticed that also just the lack of character in some of our kids, like kindness, things like that. But when these things happen, teaching time disappears quickly, and teachers spend more time managing behavior than actually teaching. At the same time, our academic scores show that many students are already performing below grade level in reading and in math, so it started to feel like a cycle. Behavior problems cause lost instruction leads to lower achievement, and then frustration creates more behavior problems. And that's when I realized that I needed to have a talk with my administration to see that if I could actually, like implement this study, if I could actually be proactive and see if this might have if they might have something to do with one another, if character education and student achievement and student discipline can go hand in hand with each other. But I just wanted to see if this character ed program could teach students skills and not just the consequences that go along with bad behavior. So before implementing any intervention, before implementing the I-Lead program, I collected behavior referral data from the first 9 weeks of school because we didn't get to start the I-Lead data right at the beginning. We started more towards the second quarter. So that's why my data came from the first 9 weeks of school. As you can see in this chart, referrals occur pretty consistently week to week from our middle school, with several noticeable spikes, especially in week 9. You'll also see in week 4 and 6 that we also had quite a bit of discipline referrals. This tells us that behavior issues aren't isolated, that they're ongoing. And each referral represents time lost from instruction, which affects not only the student involved, but it also impacts the entire class that is in the classroom when this discipline issue is happening. This consistent pattern showed a clear need for a proactive solution rather just than a reactive discipline. Furthering on with data. Next, I looked at academic data, starting with ELA's benchmark scores from the STAR assessment. In this particular chart that's on this slide, this is looking at just the fifth grade behavior data for STAR. Let me take a moment back. This is looking at fifth grade STAR data. The majority of the students scored at a level 2 or level 3, which means they are 1 to 2 grade levels below where they should be. Only a small number of students were actually on or above grade level. These results showed significant gaps in reading skills and confirmed that academic improvement is just as necessary as behavior improvement. Um, which I know, looking at this graph automatically, it doesn't look as though the behavior or the ELA data is that bad. I mean, a lot of our students are at level 3, which is amazing, especially because this is beginning of the year data, but it's still showing that there is still that room for growth, especially from level 3 to level 4 being on grade level, at or above grade level. And then there's still quite a few level 2s, level 1s that could be moved to that level 3, even to that level 4. I also examined math scores using the iReady diagnostic. Once again, this specific math graph is looking at the diagnostic results for only 5th grade. That's where, whenever I talked to my administrator, she suggested for the start of this project, just using the 5th grade data, because then if I actually implemented this project, that then I could look at the whole middle school on a scale from 5th through 8th grade. The results were mostly similar from the ELA and the math. Most students fell below grade level, with only a few meeting expectations. And with this data, we can see a lot of 2 or more grade levels below. We see a lot in the red. We see a majority of our students are in the yellow. And this suggests that students are entering middle school with foundational skill gaps. When you combine these academic struggles with frequent behavior disruptions, it creates a cycle where students fall further behind. So clearly both areas needed to be addressed together. And that's why whenever I started this project, I wanted to look at both math and ELA achievement. And I wanted to focus on growing those things, because those are the areas that are most significantly tested, especially when it comes to ACAP, when it comes to SAT, whatever it might be. Math and ELA are those common areas. So I wanted to look at those as well as the behavior referrals before implementing this plan. So, to guide my research, I reviewed several studies on character education, and what I found really proved what I was wanting to prove with this study. And research shows that when schools intentionally teach values like responsibility or respect, self control, behavior tends to improve and classroom climate becomes more positive. Studies by Benenga and others also found that schools with strong character programs often show higher academic achievement, which was the goal of this study, was that we wanted behavior referrals to go down, but we also wanted academic achievement to go up. This tells us that character education doesn't just affect behavior, but it also supports learning. And these findings strongly supported trying a program like I-Lead in my school. And like I said earlier, luckily we were just getting ready to implement the I-Lead strategy. My district just inherited that. We just bought the product, so we were getting to use that in the classroom. So my study is grounded in 2 major theories. First was Bandura's social learning theory. It explains that students learn behaviors by observing others. So modeling positive behavior is critical. Another theory that supported my study was Kohlberg's moral development theory. This suggests that students develop stronger decision-making skills when they reflect on right from wrong. And what's great about this is that the I-Lead program aligns perfectly with both of these theories, because it uses discussion, it uses reflection, it uses peer interaction to teach leadership and responsibility. So it's not just teachers telling the students, hey, here's what you need to do, but it also helps them understand why they need to do this and how they can reflect on that. The intervention that was introduced throughout the study was the Maxwell Leadership Foundation's I-Lead program. Teachers delivered 1 lesson per week for 9 weeks. Each lesson focused on leadership skills like teamwork, responsibility, communication, self-discipline. Students participated in discussions, various activities throughout the classroom, and reflections rather than lectures or punishments. The goal of the overall I-Lead program was to teach students how to manage themselves and make better choices instead of simply reacting to misbehavior. This study followed a quantitative pretest and post-test design. Before the program, I collected the behavior referral numbers and the benchmark scores on both iReady and STAR and ELA and math. Then the iLead program was implemented for 9 weeks. And after the intervention, the same data were collected again and compared. My sample included classroom groups in grades 5 through 8 with about 20 to 25 students per class, and this allowed me to measure whether any meaningful changes occurred after the program. Because this study involves minors, obviously I'm working with 5th through 8th graders. Ethics were extremely important, and making sure that I received parental consent was a big deal. And so, due to this, I made sure that all parents were provided with consent forms. I would make sure that all student data remained anonymous using the students' lunch numbers. That's in my school, that's a big way of keeping things anonymous. We use students' lunch numbers all the time, so students are very familiar with those. We use them for their emails, they use them for their library numbers, their lunch numbers, so they're very familiar with those, and we're very familiar with using them in our system. So I thought that that would be a good way to keep them anonymous. Participation in the study did not affect grades, and results were only reported at the group level. Additionally, the tools I used, STAR, iReady, the school's referral system, which was PowerSchool, they are all reliable and widely validated, which supports both internal and external validity. The ultimate goal of this study is improving student achievement both academically and socially. Short-term goals were fewer disruptions in the classroom. It should lead to more instructional time and better focus. In the long term, students should develop stronger leadership skills, better decision-making skills, and improved academic performance in both ELA and math. If successful, I would expect to see fewer referrals and higher benchmark scores after implementation. This shows how character education can positively impact the whole child, not just test scores. So, like any other study, I would say there are limitations. The implementation period was only 9 weeks, and I mean, that could definitely be improved by going longer, maybe looking at it at semesters instead of just quarters. That could definitely help. I would say any outside factors like home life or attendance could influence results. Like if a student's not having the best home situation, or if a student is constantly or chronically absent from school, that could also affect them. It could also influence results. I would say that if I were to do this study again, I would extend the timeline and possibly include more teacher training for consistency, because you never know how one teacher might implement iLead in their classroom might look completely different as to how another teacher is implementing it in theirs. So to be consistent, if we did training on that, it would help. It would further help how the study goes. Moving forward, I would recommend continuing the iLead program school-wide and collecting long-term data to measure sustained growth. But overall, this project shows that character education has the potential to improve both behavior and academics, creating a more positive learning environment for all students. I want to say thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope this was a good project. I hope that if implemented, it could honestly open the eyes of how character education can make a meaningful difference in student success. So, thank you.